Hey guys, Country Craig back here. Today we're talking about the, this is the second part to our series on the Osage orange tree, and dimensioning the wood is what we're going to be talking about today. So this is actually the first time I've used an Alaskan sawmill. I purchased this from Granberg. This is the G777. It's set up for a 20-inch bar for pretty much any saw. The one thing you got to keep in mind though is you will need a ripping chain to make this operate correctly, or at least more efficiently. But some of the things you're going to need, obviously the Alaskan sawmill itself, your ear and eye protection. Outside of that, your saw, a maul if you need it, bar chain oils, a good set of gloves, and some wedges. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get into dimensioning a bigger log, and then later I'm going to show you how to dimension some of the smaller logs, which are still useful, but we'll have to do that on my table saw in the shop. All right, let's go. So right now we're talking about dimensioning a large log using the Alaskan sawmill. To start this process, again, this is my first time through this, so have some patience with me. But to start this process, you got to look at the log first, and every log has a natural taper to it. It tapers from a short end that extends out towards your limbs to the larger end, which is going to be towards the base of the tree. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the center line, which again, we'll cut most of this off, but we're going to start on this side because we got a lot of good wood here that we can get some planks out of, hopefully. But we're going to start and look at the center line on the short end and mark to the top of the log right there. Basically what we're taking is our radius. So I'm going to use this shim just as a quick marker, mark that side right there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take this and transfer it over to the other side, so that when we cut our board we get at least a good flat shot at trying to get right here on the short end of the log. It's about taking trimming the fat end up so you get as many boards out of this log as possible. So come on over to this side. All right, now we're on the fat end of the log, and you can see that this log was a limb. The grain of the wood in the center of the log is offset a little bit, and as far as I understand, that'll be okay. We'll see. Again, my first time through. What we're looking for is just some usable planks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that center mark, and I'm going to try to just bring it over as best I can and use my line right here that I marked from the short end and mark that on this side right here. A little bit hard to see, but I think I've got it. I think I've got what I need. Okay, now we'll start applying our cross bracing. Okay, so right now we're applying our cross braces, and basically these are going to serve as a step, right, like this. Run 2x4s this length that'll allow and give us a guide to run the Alaskan sawmill right over the top.
One side.
At this point, we're going to level it up, so that when we put our cross member on that side, as long as we're working off level, then our boards our runners that go down the length of the log will be in the same plane. So if you level this side, level that side, you put your boards on top, you'll be working in the same plane, you'll get a flat board. Okay, so right now we're looking at the setup of our rails versus how our saw blade is going to travel through that log. And what we're looking at is the actual shape of the log. And as you can see, this log has a, well, kind of hard to see because we got the board in the way, but this log has a pretty steep bellow to it. It's got a little belly to it. You can see right there, we get a gap right in here. So what we want to do is we want to set up our saw blade so that it runs and catches some of this meat right here. So our first board is going to be relatively low. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm just going to eyeball this. I'm going to take this, my mill itself, and I'm going to drop this down until I can look and physically see that I'm going to catch that belly right in here. So I'll slide it down this way. So I'm still a little bit high right here. Drop it down a little bit more. And the idea is, with that right there, I will catch that belly. But what we have to keep in mind is we need a flat cut all the way across, because we're going to remove all this bracing. And once we remove all this bracing, the only thing we're going to be left with is that first cut, is our next guide to cut the next board. Okay, so we've made our first pass at this board. Go ahead and lift it up, see what it looks like. We had a clean pass. Everything worked well. Didn't run into any mines. So let's go ahead and take a look. Yep. So we're a little thin right through here, but we got a nice flat surface for our next cut. And once we get that milled up into a few more boards, we're not going to get a lot out of it, but it's strong, durable, rot resistant, and bug resistant wood. All right, so here we are. Yep, only 2 boards. Unfortunately, we had hoped to get more yield out of this log, but we ran into some carpenter ant issues in the center of the log, which was suspected, but I was hopeful that it wouldn't be as prevalent. It was. So instead of wasting time and going through boards that would ultimately be unusable, just called it quits. We got 2 boards out of it, and I will say this, that the material itself, the log, was everything I expected it to be. very dense, very hard. The mill, while my blade was sharp and the saw was performing well, it was still very difficult to get through. So keep that in mind if you're interested in trying to work this wood, this Osage Orange. As far as the equipment, my 55 Rancher, again, it's a 55 cc engine on an 18-inch bar, and this Granberg G777 Alaskan sawmill, meant for a 20-inch or less bar. It performed perfectly. I couldn't ask anything more of it. You know, again, it comes down to the material, and it's just the characteristics of the wood itself are just very dense and very hard. But we got 2 good boards out of it. We'll make some use out of it for Homestead's project, his chicken coop. In the meantime, I'll take you up to my shop and I'll show you what I'm gonna do with some of the smaller limbs that I'll be able to manage and work on my table saw a little bit easier, and we'll make some posts and some cross members that we can also utilize after felling this limb. So more to come.
Hey ladies, you better hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments, how are these tracks going to do good in the game?